Welcome to the January 8th, 2019 school board meeting. And at this time, we'll have Ms. Ellen Milligan give us an invocation, and then we'll have the presentation of the colors from North Brunswick ROTC.
Would you stand with me, please? Most gracious Father in heaven, we come before you tonight, first and foremost, to give thanks for the year you just brought us through. It was a very tumultuous, challenging year, but by your guidance and the leadership of your hand, we came through it. And we ask you, dear Lord, that you give us the strength to move forward into 2019, and that you stand with us again through whatever challenges may come our way. And we ask that you give us the wisdom to make the decisions that will benefit every student of Brunswick County Schools. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
Left base, carry, colors, present, colors. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order, colors. Order, colors. Right face, trail, colors. Forward, march. Order, colors. Left face.
May be seated. All right, the first thing we have on the agenda is the board salutes for the JROTC Awards. Mr. Daniel Siemens will come make that presentation.
Good evening and Happy New Year.
Indeed.
Speaking of, speaking of our JROTC Color Guard and the JROTC programs, you know, they play a pivotal role in the community. They're obviously a part of our Board of Education meetings. They're at sporting events. They're in the community, parades, and on and on. They are future leaders and they are current leaders, and they recently had to undergo their recreditation, which happens every 3 to 4 years. It is mandatory, and it is the inspections for all the programs are by the U.S. Army's Cadet Command, 4th Brigade, out of Fort Bragg. They take it serious. I was with Colonel Baker at North and saw the list of requirements and things that they're scored on. It is a lengthy list, and you have to score a 95% or better to keep and retain the honor unit with distinction status. And all 3 of our programs achieved that status. But wait, there's more. Little facts here. Less than 50% of all JROTC programs in the world, not just country, less than 50% in the world receive a score of 95% or higher. South Brunswick received a score of 95.5%, and because of that, we want to recognize them. So if I could get these cadets to come forward, please. Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Brady Udlenick, Cadet Command Sergeant Major Nicholas Ferguson, and Cadet Major Haley Figley. Well done. Present you with this certificate of recognition. Yes. In 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Thank you. So South's program, a 95.5%. Another stat, less than 10% in the world receive a 97% or higher score. West Brunswick scored 97.75%. If I could get Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Felix Ruiz Britton, Captain Nate Osbar, Sergeant First Class Elia Burns, Major Jordan Huffman, Cadet Major Danielle Varnum, and Cadet Captain Logan Wilkie. All right. In 3, 2, 1. Thank you. A side note, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Felix Ruiz Britton was nominated by U.S. Senator Tom Tillis to attend the Naval Academy. We'll find out in the near future. Less than 0.5% in the world receive a score of 100%. In the Southeast region, from Virginia down to Florida and everybody in between, we're talking hundreds of JROTC programs. In the past 26 years, 2 have scored a 100%. One of those programs is in the room tonight. That would be the North Brunswick High School Scorpions JROTC program. If you would please join me up here. Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Jordan Rasko, Battalion Commander. Cadet Major Veranda Blue, Battalion XO. The Color Guard, Cadet Major Catherine Kelly, Cadet Captain Justin Asbury, Cadet First Lieutenant Heidi Navarro, and Cadet Command Sergeant Major Damian Lopez.
And you represent them all.
We were. Yes. Wow. Here we go. In 3, 2, 3, 2, 1. Fantastic. North, led by Colonel Stephen Baker. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The colonels from each school. The leadership.
And I'm being reminded up here, so excuse me. If we could have all the staff and administration that helps all these students excel so well, if you'll stand, all of you that are in the room. It really is phenomenal when Daniel first put the report, and I believe some of the news stations and newspapers have also reported on the superb job that all of y'all did. So hats off to you. It's wonderful, making us proud. All right, we're going to move on to a public address, and at this time, Mr. Thorson is not here, I don't believe, but I'm going to allow Dr. Oates, if he will, to introduce our guest that we have with us.
had the pleasure today to meet with the new president of Brunswick Community College, Dr. Gene Smith. It was a meeting of new school leaders, and I had a wonderful time with him and some of his staff, and I wanted to invite him to our board meeting just to introduce himself publicly to everyone. And Dr. Smith, the floor is yours.
Good evening. My name is Gene Smith. I'm the new president at Brunswick Community College, and I'm delighted to be here tonight. Had a wonderful meeting this morning with Dr. Oates and look forward to continuing the strong partnership that Brunswick Public Schools has with Brunswick Community College. As I look around the campus, I see several strong partnerships, and it is my goal to strengthen those partnerships in the near future. We have plans to meet regularly, and I welcome your input as well. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity tonight to join you at dinner and also to be here in front of you at your meeting and learn from this setting. Thank you so much, and thank you for what you do for our students in our county. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome to
you.
Brunswick County. All right, and our presentations for our Teacher's Voice, Ms. Claire Harrington, our Teacher of the Year, will come share with us.
So we know this year's schedule could never have prepared for 19 hurricane days, and I'm sure talk of next year's schedule is a hot topic about this time of year. So during the last Teacher Advisory Council meeting, our team discussed ways to increase teacher retention and decrease teacher absences and burnout. We saw there was a cycle linked to protected teacher time and work days. Teachers truly value time to work in classrooms, to organize, plan, catch up, and clean up, as well as reflect without the distraction of meetings, children, and other distractors that happen on a regular school day. Work days have proven to increase teacher performance, student progress, and overall communication. So our team asks the board to consider including protected, nearly untouchable, we know they're not hurricane proof, work days into next year's schedule during your planning. Ideally, time to work in our schools and classrooms once per quarter, and these days are truly valued by veteran teachers and a necessity for newcomers throughout the school year. So, on that note, I'd like to invite Dr. Oates and the board members, if you would like to stand in front of this partition, to come to the front and honor some of our employees who are making the best with the time that they have this year. If you guys would come. We're here to honor some of the Brunswick County School Service Above Self Award. This is an award that goes for all employees who go above and beyond the call of duty and demonstrate service above self in the course of their responsibilities. We extend our gratitude for your exemplary dedication of your time and talents and the betterment of Brunswick County Schools. First, we're going to honor, let me get these to you. First, we'd like to honor Natalie Brosey. Ms. Brosey was if you'd like to come up and enjoy the receiving line. Ms. Brosey was very busy well before staff or students returned to school at South Brunswick High School. She was proactive in identifying the needs of our school community by setting up a forum online where community members could share their specific needs in the wake of Hurricane Florence. This was just the beginning. In the aftermath of Florence, before returning to school, she was packing her car full of supplies on a daily basis and out visiting with families. We are thankful for her service. Thank you.
There we go.
In 3, 2, 1.
Thank you.
Next, we have Elise Barrett. In her third year of teaching, Elise has made a tremendous effect on Brunswick County Schools. She is on the board of the Port City Volunteer Disaster Relief and Coordinated Supplies supply trucks to Belleville. She started a GoFundMe page raising over $5,000 for the Brunswick County community, and $1,500 of that going to the hard-hit Lincoln Elementary School. As a near professional couponer, she immediately loaded her personal vehicle and began providing families with much needed supplies and kicked off a drive at her school for families in need. She organized supply boxes for each school in the county with supplies for families affected by the storm. This enthusiasm for helping others is not only seen during disasters, but in her classroom daily and her community and church. And it's hard to put everything she did in 250 words. Next, we have Jennifer Kuhneman. I don't believe she's here. Is she here today? It says she is known at our school and is a blessing to us, and she ensures that everything runs smoothly. So we will honor Jennifer at a later notice. Next, we have Jennifer Perkins. Ms. Perkins was a total leader after the hurricane to gather goods needed by families. She stored and organized them at the school and to get the building open for those who were in need of items of food. She did all of this while receiving no extra pay and taking time for her own family. And last, we have Tony McCrae, a custodian at Virginia Williamson, who is a caring and generous person with a heart of gold and has gone above and beyond for students and teachers at Virginia Williamson Elementary School. So, thank you.
And now for our comprehensive annual financial report.
Madam Chair, can I say something
Yes,
first?
please.
I dealt with a lot of these individuals that we saw here tonight, and it's just impressive to see the caring that they had during hard times. And I know personally at Town Creek, I was there a lot, and what y'all did there was amazing. And all the schools were amazing. But we got some good folks, and got some good caring folks. So thank you.
We do. Thank you. And the thing about it is, it's still not over.
No.
There's still lots of needs out there, and I know y'all are still doing stuff every day to help people as they
Absolutely.
continue to go through their recovery process. So thank y'all. All right.
Well, my presentation is going to be more than 250 words. It's actually
250 figures, right?
So I'm going to try to point out some of the key pages. In front of you, you should have a bound comprehensive annual financial report as well as a 3-page letter. That's our letter to the board. The audit's conducted with what's called a three-party contract with the Board of Education, ourselves, and the LGC, who approves the audit. And this letter is just to let you, the board, who hired us to conduct the audit of management and of the financial statements, letting you know that the audit went as planned and that we had no issues outside of items that would maybe not be presented here. If we had difficulties scheduling, or if we had adjustments that weren't being made timely, anything like that, we would note in this letter, which there were none of those cases. Now, this letter does say that we implemented a new GASB. That's a big deal in our accounting world, but it is not a big deal in the numbers that are most important to you guys, which are, fund balance, cash on hand. GASB 75 is related to pension expenditures and the retirement health benefit. That's the big piece of it. It's a giant liability that we had to add to your financial statements. It's always been there. It was just covered and audited and presented by the state. You now get to record a portion of that, your portion, which is less than 1% of that total liability on your books in these statements. You don't change the way you pay for your retirement expense. It's still a percentage of salaries, 19%. It's just reflected here as a giant liability now. It's going to be paid for over the normal course that's always been paid. For every $100 of salary, you send $19 to the state to pay for the pension and to pay for post-employment benefits. So GASB 75 required us to add that, and that's the one big thing in that 3-page letter, letting you know that your financial statements are presented in accordance with GASB 75 now. All right. If you want to look at the bound booklet, you'll have 10 or so pages of I.1 Roman numerals, but if you actually go to page 1, number 1, this is the opinion letter. This basically states that we believe, in our opinion, after all of our audit procedures and working with management, that these financial statements are accurately reflect the condition of the board and the activity for the year ended June 30, 2018. So this is what's called a clean, unmodified opinion letter. And the opinion paragraph is actually at the bottom of page 1 there. All right. Now again, these financial statements, while they're 100 pages long, there are just some key numbers that I wanted to point out on page 13. So all the decisions, all the funding, it's really centered around exhibits 3 and 4 and 7 and 8. This is where you can see your cash and fund balances by fund, which means by funding source. You have your governmental funds, your state, federal, local, special revenue, capital outlay, and individual school funds. Those are the funds you prepare your budget on. Those are the funds that you discuss how much fund balance to use and whatnot. The rest of the statements really just expand from there. So I wanted to point out on Exhibit 3 on page 13, at the bottom of the first column, the general fund, your unassigned fund balance as of June 30, 2018, $6.9 million. That is what is available to be appropriated as of June 30, 2018.
Now, Frey always says we don't have any money. You're telling the truth now.
That was in June.
Yeah, that was in June, right?
When your budget's $133 million, $6 million isn't a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, if you look on page 15, this is essentially, again, the same funds, but this is the income statement for each of these funds. Again, you have a column for each fund: general, state public school fund, federal grants. And you can see that the state public school fund, that's the majority of your revenue, $74 million coming from the state. You don't have any fund balance in that money. It is $74 million that you have to use or lose. So there's no carrying over, there's no saving for a rainy day. All of that saving has to be done in that general fund. And that's where $6 million of $133 million isn't as big as it might seem. So if you look at that general fund column, at the very bottom, the net change in fund balance is a decrease of $138,000. So that's how much fund balance you used in the current year. There's also a capital outlay fund here, and I just wanted to point out this number is quite large, but I don't want you to think that you actually have that money. So you signed an energy lease agreement, and that agreement is front-loaded. They gave you $17 million up front. You've only spent $7 million. So while your fund balance in the capital outlay fund is $10.5 million, $10 million of those dollars have to be spent on the energy lease, the energy initiatives that you're undertaking. So this is kind of right in the middle of a 2-year project. So you have $10 million in the bank that has to be spent on these energy initiatives. So while the fund balance in that fund is high, you won't see it that high next year because that construction will be done with as of June 30, 2019, and you'll start paying the actual payments on that debt. So I don't want that. That's a significant change from last year, but I don't want you to be fooled into thinking that you actually have $10 million of capital outlay money available. All right. Page 21, Exhibit 7. So those first two exhibits, Exhibits 3 and 4, those are your governmental funds, State Public School Fund, Federal Grants Fund, General Fund. Exhibits 7 and 8 are your School Food Service Fund statements, balance sheet and income statement. These are presented separate because it's a business type fund. This fund had to record that same GASB 75 adjustment, and it actually records it within the fund. So it really, there's a large prior period adjustment, a large liability recorded here that creates a negative fund balance. So these statements become a little bit more difficult to read when you're trying to analyze how well the Child Nutrition Fund did this year. I like to look at page 23, Exhibit 9. This is the cash flow statement. A lot of the federal rules around child nutrition are based on how much cash you have on hand. They want you to operate the Child Nutrition Fund between 1 and 3 months cash on hand. So instead of looking at fund balance, you can look at the change in cash to see how well that fund is doing in a current year. So in the middle of the page, the net decrease in cash of $106,000, making cash go from $2.9 million to $2.8 million. That's really almost a break even, $100,000 loss. That is more accurate than the change in fund balance, because that change in fund balance now includes this non-cash liability for retirement health benefits. Now, when you look at that change in cash and the change in fund balance, it is lower than last year. Last year actually added fund balance, added cash. You had some increases in salary expenses and a small $100,000 decrease in federal reimbursement. So there was some usage of fund balance that was a direct result of operations, not just from this GASB 75. So that's kind of where that $100,000 of cash usage came in there. It is mostly because of salary expenditures. Any questions? Again, those are the fund statements. If you're breaking these 100 pages down into the four most important, it's exhibits 3, 4, 7, and 8. We have our opinion letter at the beginning. So after those statements, you have your notes for the financial statements, about 40 pages of notes. There's about 12 new pages, all related to GASB 75. And then there's also some schedules of 10-year comparisons of some different data. But behind that, starting on page 89, are the other letters that we present that are part of the actual audit. So the page 1 is an opinion letter on the financial statements. Page 89 starts 6 pages of letters related to compliance and internal controls. These two are both, are all three, 2 opinion letters and 1 letter on internal control. All 3 of them are considered clean letters. We have 2 opinions that state we believe that Brunswick County Schools complied with all federal and state compliance requirements for the major federal and state programs. And then the internal control letter states that we identified no deficiencies in internal controls that we believe are material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in controls. So again, those are 2 clean opinion letters and a letter stating that we don't believe that there's deficiencies in controls. That's really all I have. My number is at the bottom of each of those letters, and you can feel free to call me anytime. We work on schools year-round at our firm, and so I'm always willing to talk about GASB 75 and retirement health benefits and any accounting lessons. and just to talk about the audit in general. We spend a lot of time, and so does management, on putting together the information needed to create 100 pages worth of information. And while 4 or 5 pages are the most important, it's all relative, all important, and all required. So a lot of time and effort goes into that, a lot of work, again, on our part and management's part. And that 3-page letter to the board, it summarizes that, that management works well in preparing and conducting the audit and helping us conduct the audit. We're looking at numbers from June 30, 2018, and we're already 5-6 months down the road. The important thing that we would note in conducting this audit, not just that these financial statements are clean, but if we had a lot of difficulty getting to this point, or we thought that the information that you were receiving during the year was inaccurate and didn't reflect what we see at the end of the year, and that's just not the case. We don't have to do large adjustments to the statements or to the general ledger when we come in and conduct the audit. The numbers that are being reported monthly and quarterly, and the budget numbers, those are all accurately reported in good clean numbers during the year. So that's, again, part of, if we had those types of difficulties, or we just saw significant problems, those would be things we would report as internal control deficiencies, and that's just not the case. So while the numbers are old, the fact that management is doing a good job is current. So.
Any questions? I know we have to take all these 100 pages in first, but anyway. No. Anything?
All right, well, I
Thank you
appreciate
so
your time.
much. Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Cahill, and your staff for your hard work that goes along with it, I know. So, thank you. All right, we'll move on to the approval of the meeting agenda. Do you have anything to add or change, or have a motion to approve the meeting agenda?
So moved.
Mr. Miller, make a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I have a motion for the approval of the minutes from December the 4th meeting and December 11th curriculum and policy meeting.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the minutes for December 4th and December 11th.
Okay, motion from Mr. Lemon. For a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Miller. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, we have seen there are no consent items. We'll move on to action items. The first one would be the Cooperative High School Renewal Form.
Madam Chair, I'm bringing before you and the rest of the board the Cooperative Innovative High School Renewal Form. This is a form that is submitted to the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, I think every 4 years, for the continued partnership between Brunswick County Schools and Brunswick Community College in making sure our Brunswick County Early College is renewed and the partnership is kept. Ms. Skaggs is here, and I know she is anxious to make sure that this form is signed so they can continue the good work at the early college. And this is something that actually Dr. Smith and I will both have to sign as well, so it is a good thing that he's here tonight as well.
All right. Any questions or anything? All right.
Motion to approve.
All right, Mr. Miller makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, second by Mr. Benton. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, the second item is class size waiver request.
So for the Board of Education, we have certain requirements that we have to meet in regards to class size in kindergarten through third grade. This year, due to the Hurricane Florence, the compliance notification or the waivers for that was extended at the time that we did this to December 21st, and now it's been extended to January the 11th. We had a few class size overages at Waccamaw in second and third grade. When we identified those, we provided an additional position to accommodate that, but we were not able to staff that position within the time frame, the first 40 days of school. And actually, it was better for the school to staff that position at the beginning of January to make for a natural break for the students, that they wouldn't go to classes on one day in one class and then the next day go in to a different class. So we scheduled it in that way. We were able to fill that position, and now there are no class size overages. So by the time we're asking you to sign this waiver, it's already been fixed. But it is paperwork that we have to submit to the state. The superintendent has to sign an affidavit that we've done everything that we need to do to accommodate the class sizes. And that's what we're asking of you tonight.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Do I hear a motion to approve the waiver?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the waiver.
Second?
Second.
All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, now the amendment to contract to audit accounts.
This
Let
too
me imagine
is
who that would be.
this too is paperwork after the fact.
Okay.
The audit report has been submitted and approved by the Local Government Commission. However, as a result of the hurricane, we were scheduled to have the audit during that time, and so it had to be rescheduled, and therefore the audit work came later, and the audit report was not able to be submitted to the Local Government Commission by October 31st, which is the requirement. And so therefore, the Local Government Commission requires that we amend the contract for the modification of the due date. No change in amounts or anything of that type, but it requires that the board sign off that the original due date for the report was October 31st, and the new modified due date is January 31st, although, like I said, the report has been submitted and approved. So this is paperwork.
All right. All right, so I have a motion for the,
Madam Chair, I make a motion, we amend the contract for audit accounts.
all right, motion by Mr. Lemon.
Second.
Second, Ms. Milligan. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, and now the 2019 budget calendar.
Yes, so now we're moving on to the next budget cycle. This calendar is typical of what it has looked like in years past. Cabinet has started conversations about the budget process. Principals are starting to meet with their school improvement teams to determine budget needs. Then there will be budget presentations by the principals to the cabinet members and key central office folks, February 7th. And then February 11th, Cabinet begins to kind of sort through the requests and compile the request. And that goes on through February. And then March 19th, of note to the board, would be the presentation of the capital outlay budget to the board. That would be during a normal March committee meetings. And then the April committee meetings, we would schedule the budget work session for the current expense budget. And then we would move through the process of having a interim budget resolution in June if the state has not already adopted a new budget. So this is the draft that's presented to the board for approval.
All right. Any questions? See it on there. Here, our motion for approval of the budget calendar. Mr. Miller?
Second.
Second, Mr. Lemon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. And now we move on to discussions and announcements. Dr. Rhodes?
If you remember, at our last board meeting, Mr. Siemens presented our Teacher of the Year, Claire Harrington, with a certificate from NCAD. And he mentioned that he would provide information at a later date about what that was about. On December 17th, a letter was sent to us from NCAD, and if you would indulge me for just a moment, I want to read some of that regarding the award for Ms. Harrington. It says, Dear Ms. Harrington, on behalf of the Development Foundation of the North Carolina Center for the Advancement of Teaching, or NCAT, I would like to congratulate you on being named the Brunswick County Schools Honored Educator Scholar for 2018-19. The scholarship honors the Brunswick County Teacher of the Year and the commitment of Brunswick County Schools to its teachers. Each year, the Brunswick County Schools Honored Educator Scholar is able to attend an NCAT program of their choice. The scholarship covers all costs associated with the teacher's participation in an NCAT program, including program materials, instruction, food and lodging on the NCAT campus, travel to and from campus from the teacher's home, and payment for the substitute teacher while the scholar is at NCAT. Moreover, the teacher receives $250 for use in their classroom. We are honored to present you with this award and ask that you visit the NCAT website to apply to a program of interest to you. Thank you for all that you do to support the students at Southport Elementary School and your dedication to the teaching profession. This is from Dr. Brock Womble, the Executive Secretary, the Development Foundation of NCAT, and that is for Claire Harrington. So we're looking forward to hear how you enjoy NCAT. Okay. In addition to the discussions, I just wanted to make you aware that Ms. Aldrina Johnson, who is a parent facilitator at Belleville Elementary, she applied for the FAST NC grant, and the FAST NC grant is it was to provide funds and in-kind contributions to assist public school students and employees in recovering from the impact of Hurricane Florence. The focus of the support will be on the 28 counties that have been declared federal disaster areas as a result of from the damage from the hurricane. And priority will be given to school materials, supplies, and resources that aid students in being prepared for instruction and aid teachers in the restoration of a high-quality learning environment. What Ms. Johnson did for Belleville was to request funds to be used to replace the K-2 instructional rugs, PE equipment, and STEM lesson instructional aids for the school that were all damaged. If you notice the large rugs that are in many of our K-2 classrooms, this grant will assist us in replacing those along with the other things as I just mentioned. So I wanted to give a shout out to her, as she will also be recognized in at the state board meeting on Thursday morning at 10 o'clock. So she and I think Dr. Hessman are traveling to Raleigh to the state board meeting. So we just wanted to make sure they were recognized.
That's great.
The North Brunswick High School JRTC rifle team competition is taking place, I think it's this weekend in Anniston, Alabama. They will be leaving once again to compete, to continue on their tradition of excellence as we've recognized tonight. And before I forget, let me mention the first time in the seat in the batter's box, the new Assistant Superintendent for Instruction, Ms. Molly White. As you know, Ms. White served as Principal of the Year for us here in Brunswick County. She was K-8 Instructional Director in Pender County, and she has definitely hit the ground running. I just asked her yesterday, I said, you don't regret anything yet now, do you, taking this position? And she said, no, she's ready to go. So we're looking forward to working with her and assisting us as we grow in Brunswick County. To give you an update on our strategic plan, as you know, our strategic plan consisted of several phases in which we conducted community meetings at North Brunswick, at South High, and at Charlotte Middle for community input. We then left that phase, went to the second phase in which a task force had been assembled, which consisted of every municipality in our district, in our county, was represented by some folks who were willing to give of their time and their expertise in crafting the information that we gained from the community into some workable objectives. We are now in the third phase, in which we now have gotten those objectives back. We've met as a cabinet with the Masonboro group, specifically Dr. West, and we have prioritized those objectives by year. as to for each goal. And we'll be sharing those back with the task force. So we want to make sure the task force is kept abreast of the progress that we're making. And we're looking to present a strategic plan to the board in February. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware of the process of that endeavor. School visits with the board are scheduled for January 15th. Please let me know which two of you will be accompanying me to various schools around the district. And of course, lastly, and definitely but not least, we want to make sure that we remember the Costin family that we lost a teacher at North Brunswick High School, a phenomenal math teacher. I attended the funeral this past Saturday. She lost her life on Christmas night, returning back home in a car accident. And just want to keep those folks out, the family, in our prayers, and that school, as they have had a big loss there. It's good to say that our crisis team was there upon the return after Christmas break, and they responded as they always do, and it was much needed. So keep that family and the school in your prayers. Madam Chair, that's all I have.
All right. Well, without have a motion to go into closed session.
Make a motion to go into closed session as stated on the agenda.
All right, Mr. Miller, make a motion. Have a second?
Second.
All right, Ms. Fleming. All right. All in favor? All right, we'll go in closed session. Take a 5-minute break.